Matsy, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about uh, Daredevil Born Again, the trailer that just came out that dropped for the TV show that's coming out on Disney Plus beginning of March. And we see Daredevil's back, Matt's back, Fisk is back, same actors are back. We're getting a we get to see the I think it's we were talking before we got started. I think this has been 10 years, right? And since season 3 from the Netflix show. And yeah, we're seeing Fisk as mayor. We're seeing we're seeing Daredevil himself as the mantle of Daredevil has been shelved as we saw at the end of season 3, and Matt considering putting that back on given the state of the city. So it's a pretty action packed trailer as well. So pretty cool. Twitless, what is you said you've got some things you wanted to bring up. I'd be really interested to hear what you had to say just to start things off.
Yeah, it's called Born Again, which is an interesting title choice because, in a way, this is because Disney now has these properties. It is very much a kind of born again, resurrected thing, which has connections to previous continuity, obviously, but then is kind of its own. We'll see how it's the new ground that it takes. It's also kind of, and we were doing this behind the scenes for people who know some of the comics and know the show, even people who have that level of familiarity. It can be easy to get confused about certain things because it's called Born Again, which is a reference to another comic book storyline, but the show is really pulling from material that we'll be reviewing when we actually cover this show from Charles Soule's run on a Daredevil from 2016, called Daredevil Mayor Fisk. So it's called Born Again, but it's pulling stories from it's material from the Mayor Fisk storyline, partially because the Born Again storyline, which many people do remember fondly, was covered in the Netflix Daredevil. They pulled that in, I think, season 3, and then some of the Defenders and such. So like a good comic book story, things are already kind of discombobulated and a little messy before we enter, and we have a reboot. So really hitting all of the notes for what for comic book storytelling as we jump into this trailer. You already need to have been caught up with a whole bunch of continuity, just like you would at your local comic book shop. So I think it's a very authentic comic book experience with all the confusion being part of the ticket for admission.
What I liked about the trailer is that everything old is new again, and it
Mm.
does seem like they're trying to return to form, get back to basics. You saw Punisher pop up here, and I'm hoping they still go for the Blumenthal gritty representation of the Punisher. He never had a season where he quite lost that, unlike Daredevil. So we'll see if Marvel does it right for once and actually gets these characters back to their new roots, back to what people remember them fondly as in their Netflix renditions.
Because there was that one moment where Daredevil has shown up in the MCU already. That was She-Hulk, which I think most people agree at this point was not a good showing. It's just a Daredevil doing the walk of shame
Mhm.
after he had a one night stand, I think, with She-Hulk. It was
Yeah.
basically his only appearance so far, and so now it's very clear that they're at least trying to, in Disney's way, right? And I would imagine that there's still going to be some of Disney fingerprints. That being said, this trailer does show in the trailer itself some edgy violence. There's some limbs that get snapped, and there's definitely some blood in there. So it's very clear that they're trying to evoke what made the Netflix show. Especially those first 2 Daredevil seasons that were so well received by a lot of people. Um, I'm still on the fence about how I feel about the whole Netflix Marvel shows as a whole, and Daredevil included. But that being said, they definitely had a very distinct direction for them. They were definitely it was Marvel by night, and it was definitely darker. This was not friendly neighborhood Spider-Man territory. Like I said, it was brutal. The criminals were ruthless, and the implications and consequences of the actions were often very serious. People got killed in these shows.
Yeah, that was one of the things. I mean, that's pretty much all I remember of the Netflix edition, and I think that's one of the things that makes me not. It doesn't feel like a returning. Doesn't feel like something I'd go back and watch again. Just being dark and serious.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being a visual masterpiece.
Well, there was
Yeah,
that one, except for that one memorable like hallway fight scene, right?
yeah, the
Remember
hallway fight.
that's
Yeah,
kind of
no,
like
you're
was
right.
it like the raid or whatever, where clearly they were channeling that whole like uh,
They took some risks. They tried some stuff, but
Yep.
it's more about dark and light. And 10 years ago, I feel like I mean, with obviously with Matt Murdock, you're gonna wanna play with light and shadow. There's a lot more color in this, I hesitate to say that that's just because it's Disney, but it does feel like we're getting visually like a bolder kind of,
it's
intentionality, which
it's
that kind of
Disney.
excites me.
It's Disney dark, I think. I think that's
Yeah,
we
it can
might
be
be,
that.
it might be settling on Disney dark. It'll be Disney's version of dark, but they're clearly
Yeah,
trying to do that as opposed to just do something very very different.
just turning off the lights. Yeah.
Well, and
You know,
there
it and it's also like it bears being said, it's so interesting that this got set up and was produced and is being released when you've got this kind of return, the criminal gangster who, was almost convicted for so many crimes, and yet somehow he got scot-free, and now he's the leader of the city, you know? I mean, it doesn't escape me that Disney is relishing in the Trump allegory stuff here,
well, and that
which I think is just kind of fun, frankly. Like, it's kind of neat to get we're returning to form of just seeing naked, political commentary
that
in our superheroes.
that aspect is handled in a fascinating way also in
Yeah.
the Charles Schulz storyline. So I'm
Mhm.
really looking forward to when this series starts streaming on Disney Plus. We're going to be going through in depth into each of those issues with each episode,
Absolutely.
and drawing comparisons and being able to talk about both is going to be a really fascinating experience. So people should definitely tune back in when the series drops here for the reviews of both the comic and the show. But I liked especially we see them mining some interesting territory. They had Muse as a villain come up, and that was really nice to see that there's going to be some branching out there, exploration, a little bit of the Daredevil universe for more original conflicts and more original villains that they could potentially introduce into the
There
lore.
there's something the MCU has not cracked for me apart from, I think, Deadpool, I would say.
Mm.
And I'm not the biggest fan of the Deadpool films, but, the costuming. I often feel that there's, apart from a few the MCU seems to be very MCU is a very hit and miss when it comes to how they, bring these characters to life. Sometimes they nail it, like Iron Man, obviously, Captain America, there's a few standouts there. A lot of characters fall into what I call, ski resort motorcycle wear,
Yeah.
and
Leather straps and stuff. Yeah.
it's just kind of you just see it and you go, I know I've seen cosplayers do it better. And so there's a host of Marvel characters who they're just much more forgettable because of it. And Daredevil's outfit itself, like I think they did an okay job, but it was never something that I was, I think, extremely wowed by. Spider-Man in the MCU, I think, has been handled really pretty well from the costume perspective. He definitely looks like Spider-Man. But when I saw Muse, first off, I didn't quite recognize him. Again, when you see this, he looks a little generic. So you'd almost need someone to tell you, oh, that's Muse, unless you're very familiar with that character. And then again, like I said, just something about the outfits. I'm not sold on that. And when we did see, I think, Frank Castle briefly, um,
We did, yeah. Bearded, right?
Totally sold on that.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing the old Netflix representation of the character, and I just want him to be that same kick-ass badass that he was there.
but I
So
want the outfit.
Yeah.
He really isn't Punisher unless we get the skull shirt. You know what I mean? Otherwise, he's just a murderer. Like
Right.
the him being like again, the difference in him being the Punisher, which is this, this iconic bringer of death, who is not just you know, a regular killer, is in fact that superhero identity. Otherwise, like I said, he might as well just be like you know, a vigilante with a gun.
They better get the skull right, 100%.
And I'm actually I know I'm bringing there's a little nervousness about that. Disney recently has pushed against the skull motif. I know specifically in the comics and stuff. It got so popular with the military, they were putting, it became a kind of a right wing signifier, and there was a concerted effort to like literally change iconography because of it. So we'll see how they bring this all together for the show, but we'll definitely be chronicling it step by step, along with taking a look at the comics that this is based upon. So you're definitely going to want to follow along with us when we take a look at Daredevil Born Again, and then the comic that it's drawing from, which is Mayor Fisk.
Cautiously optimistic. Trailer looked really good. So stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for checking out the video. Subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more.